Hey, welcome in. Welcome in. Topic today, men living with disabilities. Gonna wait for a little bit. Okay. All right, guys. Men with disabilities. Things we don't talk about often. All right. Give it a couple more seconds. I'm gonna get a little hydrated, and then we're gonna rock this show. All right. Okay, guys. Bringing the energy. Good stuff. We vibe high over here. All right, this is Cowries Corner Man Start, brought to you by Cowries Corner. Doing this for the next month or two. Gonna see how long we're gonna drag this out. However, we're talking about male facts, men's mental health, and what affects them. Last week was pretty heavyweight week. We went over quite a few things. ED, drug abuse. I mean, so many different little things. Made it through that week. This week we're going with this. We're starting here today. Men living with disabilities. Some of the facts, because you all guys, you have a father, a brother, a nephew, a cousin, an uncle, some form of XY chromosome in your life that may need some of this information we didn't know. Okay, so let's go ahead and start at the top. Now, do you know? And I want to. This is crazy because when I started researching this topic about men with disabilities and their mental health, I did not know how not look that I mean, just not noticed that they don't get the help that they really need. I thought men's mental health was bad, but men with disabilities mental health, whew, I mean, they need the help. We need to help them out here. Okay, so the first thing that we deal with, biggest thing, one of the big things we deal with in men's living with disabilities, social isolation, right? Studies indicate that individuals with disabilities are at higher risk of experiencing social isolation. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. A lot of people in the house, a lot of people doing things, but when you're disabled, you can't do as much as somebody else. Now, I haven't been totally disabled, but I've been on fire, half my body. I've had a skull fracture. I've been shocked, my arm. I've told you guys about a lot of injuries where I've lost ability, but I haven't been totally disabled. Now, with that, I felt all of these things that I'm getting ready to present to you tonight. I felt it, and I went through this cycle, and I deal with guys. I have friends that are in the military that have lost limbs, that have really lost half of their body, some of them. So I wanted to touch on this, especially for those guys. Definitely to honor our soldiers and honor the risen, not the fallen, the ones who rose up and did what they had to do out there. So, but yeah, let's look at, and do you know, not only with the social isolation, with being disabled, you also come in with a degree of discrimination. So approximately 58% of men with disabilities report experiencing discrimination due to their disabilities. And what does this affect? Okay, it affects their employment, right? It affects their employment and the social opportunities, what they get to do outside, their health care. Because being disabled, healthcare now goes up. There's certain things that you didn't have before. Like right now, a lot of you guys don't have a wheelchair. You don't have a wheelchair ramp. You don't have a prosthetic limb. You don't have the healthcare that you don't need the healthcare that they need provided for them, along with that mental care. You also, let's see here. Um, I lost my spot for a second. And including the mental health services, that they're weak, right? Now, along with that disability, we talked about this last week. Now, when you have that discrimination inside of the house as a man, you start feeling weak in your heart, weak in your mind. You don't have that lean on because you're still feeling that man. Just like we talked about yesterday with ED, just the loss of that limb makes a man feel so much less than a man, right? Now, along with how this all goes, you got to think there's difficulty accessing support services with this. There's not a lot of services that help with disabled men's mental health. Google it. It's not many things that actually deal with men's mental health, let alone disabled men's mental health, right? So what do they feel? Because we all feel that same way when we lose something, even down to the little limb, right? You feel inadequate, and in that feelings of inadequacy, research suggests that over 50% of the men with disabilities feel inadequate when comparing themselves to the social standards of masculinity. I'm lower than them. It's so mental. Now you're living without something you came in with, or maybe never had it at all. Think about when you just get something in your eye and you have both eyes and you can't use them, or you hurt your arm and you can't use it, or your legs are just sore from working out, but we want to complain about it. So we complain when these guys that are disabled, they have that critical need for inclusion, right? The advocacy highlights when it comes to inclusion of mental health services for men and disabled men, less than 30% of those mental facilities are accessible for people with physical disabilities. They don't even make them accessible. Think about that. Our We have to have food industries that are accessible, but mental health, and we know that this disability, we have all of this data in front of us, but they're not handy capable, or where they're able to be used, right? So now I can't even go there if I wanted to go there. If you're disabled, I can't use these facilities because they're not made for me. But we're going to get down there. Plenty of things. So the support networks, right? The value of the support networks in men with disabilities, because and you deal with this a lot with military guys, because a lot of guys came back disabled. Um, things things that happened to them in war and overseas. But in studies, men with disabilities participating in support networks report a 40% improvement in mental health outcomes compared to those who don't. So once again, we're back to the point: men getting help, men pushing that throne, men stepping out and saying, you know what, I must set this vulnerability aside, because vulnerability, that stuff happens in the darkness. Pride, it happens in the darkness, right? All that stuff happens in the darkness so you can succeed. Peace. Peace happens in the darkness. And then it reaches light. And that's why we got to include these guys. We got to reach out to these guys. Hey man, how are you? How you doing today? Because you don't know what they lived through. You don't know what they damn near died through. But we tend to forget. We forget that critical freaking need to include the disabled men. It's bad enough that we have a problem with inclusion with a lot of men with mental health issues now. But then we forget about those other guys, right? And what about empowerment and training? There's not a lot out there to support these guys. So there's a place called Disabled World. I checked this place out. It's really pretty cool. And Disabled World, they serve as a source reaching out to thousands of individuals Um, and they don't just provide information, but they provide a variety of disability access and things to the community and different resources to help with that enhanced quality of life, or that quality of life that they don't see as much as we see not being disabled, as much as we have. So, guys, especially if you have any friends, hey, Augustine, how you doing? Tim, uh, if you guys have friends, family, remember the XY chromosomes. They are in need of severe mental health. We are losing guys 4 times more than women by taking their own life. And a lot of guys, especially when I was in the military, that was one of the biggest things that I saw. They were removing themselves. We didn't need an enemy. We had one. Ourselves, our ego, our pride, our macho, manly, societal view, and these unrealistic expectations that we had to reach. And now we have men that have gone in, firemen, regular men, I mean, policemen, soldiers. We have all these different people, and just people that have been living with those disabilities but not afforded that help. The men that have been living with disabilities, men that you know, have you checked on them? Have you said, hey, are you okay? Right? Because what do they face? They face pretty much the same thing we face. It's just it's almost like a little bit of extra poke. Men with disabilities face significant barriers in the job market, with unemployment rates for this group being double or even triple those of men without disabilities. We have men living with disabilities that want to go out and work. They want to use what they have. They've worked their butt off to gain and get back, to fire themselves up, the physical therapy they've gone through, to live in this world where all are included. But we forget. Sometimes we forget the smallest of things. And these people don't want to be looked at different. No, they want to be regular people included. So how about we include them in some of these mental health issues, mental health help, right? Now, this is Calories Corner, so you know it's going to be we're going to go a little bit deeper. Disabled men and mental health with their sexual issues, right? Now, discussion around sexual and reproductive health often they exclude men with disabilities. I'm one to talk. This is my first show talking about men with disabilities and mental health, right? And we exclude them, leading to misinformation and unmet health needs. So we're not helping these guys, and we're a part of them. It's one thing about a man, when you feed him with love, man, it motivates him to conquer the world. When you feed him with disrespect and disregard and hate, he stops in his tracks. He starts moving at a slow pace. So, what's our strategies for this? What's my strategy for this? My strategy is to promote more inclusive communities, be a part, even myself. I want to open this up to men all around the world with mental health, because I haven't seen a racist, prejudiced, sexist, homophobic wheelchair ever. I've never seen one. They don't care what color you are, how tall you are, 6 figures. They don't care. Wheelchair is overly accommodating. So when we have these disabilities, what do we want to look for, man? How do we want to help? You know, there's we want to start telling people about the services. Like I just told you guys about Disabled World. There's a lot of different things. We don't even think about certain disabilities that matter. Like I talked to some people before I did this, and they just went to limbs, right? But not having sight is a disability. What about that man walking down the street, not being able to see? Right now, you're able to see me. What about the men that need braille books for men's mental health or sign language because they can't hear, because that's a disability? There's so many things that we don't count, we don't look at, we don't view when it comes to men's mental health, right? And despite the challenges, we have data that goes on. Despite the known challenges, there is a significant gap in research specifically focused on men with disabilities and their mental health. Research. We research ketchup in the United States, but the gap in research with disability, men with disabilities, and men mental health, big gap, right? So what I try to tell you guys, and I know this is a quick show, a little controversial. It was longer this morning. We went over a lot of different things, but be an advocacy for these people, right? Be inclusive. Be accessible. Stop being a butthole. Think outside the box. But inclusion matters. If it matters for everything else, it definitely should matter for our mental health, especially our men with disabilities. So let's be there for them. Because there are many men in your life. There's probably at least one man in your world right now with a disability. That's your friend or your family. And just men's mental health in general. Most of the time, a man just wants to talk. And he loves to be vulnerable. And when you think about being disabled or not where you wanted to be or used to be because of some form of loss, or you could have been born that way, to live through society demanding a six pack and six figures. What about a man with character, integrity, morals, endurance, with his self control and his discipline? I've seen some of the most powerful mental men come back from disabilities, and they went through fire, the pain, and to still emerge missing something from their body and working it. I mean, can't stop them. More energy than me. But do they get affected? Man, I get affected with all of my limbs, with all of my legs, my eyes. Being a man, being a man is a weird thing, man. And it took me all of these years to kind of go from boy to man to actually get a view of that mental view of it. Seeing what a man really goes through. Seeing how beautiful a woman is for a man's life. Being a man and seeing your children. Being able to play with your children. There's a lot of my buddies they can't do. They lost things in the military. They became disabled from the military, and they can't do certain things with their family. But they're freaking good men. They're good fathers for their families. They're good teachers for their children. And they're leaders of motivation. You have all your limbs and arms and no disabilities. How motivated have you been? What have you done with your life lately? Huh? And look at what they have to deal with. 58% of the men with disabilities, 58% report discrimination. This is not black and white or whatever discrimination. It's no homophobia. This is just men in general. 58%. They feel loneliness with their disability. You ever just hurt your ankle or been down? Just being not able to do something or have to figure it out another way. That's a powerful person that can create something from what they lost from nothing. Those are winners. So I challenge you, reach out to those winners, reach out to those men in your life, the XY chromosomes, especially those ones that have become disabled or have been. And look at what they have to deal with and how far they have to come on a daily basis. Just some love. Just some freaking love for a disabled man. You might help him walk again, stand again, be strong enough to live again instead of sit down and slowly die where we're not able. So I thank you guys for coming out. And in conclusion, this is my conclusion. The challenges that we face as men, but the challenges that are faced by men with disabilities in relation to their mental health is deeply involved in social media. So we have to be more inclusive in our real environment. So ask your friends to take a walk and go love on them. Thank you guys for coming out. We'll see you first thing in the morning at 7. It's going to be spicy. Another spicy hot topic. Really spicy. I will talk to you guys in the morning. It's been a long day. I'm exhausted. I know you guys are probably tired. I will talk to you soon. Thanks, guys. Much life, much love. Oh, and don't forget, every platform. Meet me on YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, Facebook, all of your all the platforms. Meet me there. Rumble, and sign up. But we're gonna have the men's conference the first week of June, and we'll start doing interviews middle of May to prep for that. So if you want to be involved, go ahead and DM me. This is for men's mental health. I'm the only women that can come in that I'll accept are women with boy children, man boys that need some help with that. So anyway, guys, I will see you. Have a wonderful night. Much life. Believe that.